and the land of Israel. This life connection. One without the other is not alive. We saw one side of the coin, the land of Israel without the people of Israel. What happens to the land? Those that were here?
Desolated.
Desolate, right? Becomes Shmama. We saw the verses in Vayikra, the Gemarot, and pictures from Mark Twain, whatever, in his descriptions and also pictures. In other words, the land without the Eretz Yisrael doesn't show signs of life. A fertile land, right? Mark Twain says, how can a fertile land become this phenomenon that the land knows its owners, knows who belongs there. If it's not there, if the nation of Israel isn't there, then the land doesn't respond. The land turns into a desert. And the other side of the coin, the Jewish people outside the land, what we say about that is not a nation. The rabbi we saw the Gemarot and Horayot, and a lot of sources, we had the sheets, of that it's not considered a nation. The vitality, the unique content of the Jewish people to be the kingdom of God that brings down God's name, this ideal, the Shekhinah, the God presence in the world through this vehicle, the nation, cannot be revealed. It's like an individual broken into pieces, God forbid. His neshama, his inner life force and source, cannot be expressed. It's when he's broken into pieces. So too, the nation has this collective life source called the Shekhinah, called the Knesset Yisrael, which is revealed through the nation in the land of Israel, as it says in Yeshayahu 52. Noten neshama la'amaleh. Give the neshama to the people upon this land. The Sfat Emet elaborates on that. How the neshama is revealed through a collective body, the body of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. That's what enables this, again, this force of life. The Jewish people in the land of Israel is like these two pieces of metal that conduct. Plastic and metal don't conduct. You have a nice piece of plastic, beautiful, shiny, and a piece of metal. Jews in New York or non-Jews in Israel, you don't have those two pieces of metal that are the God-created structure that enables this flow of divinity, of godliness, of holiness, of goodness, of justice, of absolute truth, of a flow of the Shekhinah, divine presence to this world. So it's not just some political thing, it's the fixing of the world, the connection of this world to the divine, which is all of mankind is searching for the divine and how to get to God. So the vehicle is, through the Jewish people land of Israel, that's what enables this connection of godliness and worldliness that bridges the gap. And outside the land, like I said, it's not a nation. We saw, again, I don't repeat all the sources, but also what the rabbi said, we saw how when the Jews come back to the land, then will be fulfilled that verse that we say at the end of Aleinu L'Shabech 3 times a day, from the verse from Zechariah 14, in that day, Yashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. When is that? When does that mean? That God He is one and His name is one. He's always one. But His name, how it's revealed, how it's expressed, in other words, the ideal and the real, when did they become one? When is the reality expressed fully, that original divine ideal for creation? And so when the Jews come back to the land, then will be fulfilled. That's in the Zohar, what you saw. The Hashem, God will be one, His name will be one. It's also what we said on Shabbat, Mincha, right? The ultimate prayer on Shabbat. We get to Mincha, a special time. And what is the prayer there? How does the Shemona Esrei go? Ata Echad, V'Shimcha Echad, U'mi K'amcha Yisrael, Goy Echad, Ba'aretz. So that's like the summary of all this we've been discussing, so to speak. That you're one, that transcending the divine beyond, there's no words, and your name is also one. Your name, that oneness, that ideal of unity, of harmony, of this white light, of the totality, perfection of all. When is that revealed? Who is it revealed through? Goy Echad, the nation that is one. There's a nation that is created that receives that oneness, that can express that unity, that harmony of all. As opposed to the world, the fractured world. Everything is separate and hatred and jealousy and wars and everything one against the other. Not realizing that, like it's an orchestra, that all the instruments together are needed. Each one needs the other to make this beautiful richness of the music that would all together work in harmony. So the conductor, that which brings about that unity and harmony of all of creation, all of existence, all the creatures in reality, that is through the Goy Echad, that nation that is created with this unifying essence, a unified essence. Goy, you're one, and your name is one, your expression of your ideal is one. When? Through the Jewish people. But what does it say at the end? Ba'aretz, right, in the land of Israel. And that's what the Zohar said, the rabbis say on that. In the land of Israel they're one, and not when they're outside of it. Although what's lacking is not just you can do the mitzvot outside the land, although we'll see the difference between doing the mitzvot in the land and outside the land. What the rabbis say about that, it's not the same qualitative level. Besides which the quantitative level, you can't do all the mitzvot outside the land. But as the rabbis say, that the mitzvot, all the mitzvot were meant to be kept fulfilled properly and fully in the land of Israel. But nevertheless, this ideal of creation, this goal of the oneness of God that is revealed through the oneness of God, meaning that all of creation is now connected to and linked to this source of creation. What a blessing for all. Like we say at the end also, Leinu Shabeach, Litaken Olam B'Malchut Shaddai. To unify all the world, to fix all this world, to rectify it. What does it say that all? Look how many times it says all afterwards. Kol b'nei basar, b'kol rishei haaretz, all of man, all of the creatures. This whole totality of all of existence connected to the source. What a blessing will flow to the world. When is that? When the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, then you have this receptacle. And we have to get used to that because for 2,000 years we haven't had that receptacle. We haven't had the Jewish nation in the land of Israel. And when the nation is broken outside the land of Israel, what is it like in Yechezkel, the limbs, right? The dry bones in exile, Yechezkel chapter 37. The dry bones, it's like scattered. What does Haman say to the king? He says like this, Am Yisrael, Am Mefuzar Mefurar Ben Amim. They're scattered people. The exile is scattered. What do you have? Individual Jews, good Jews, holy Jews, religious Jews, all over the world, rabbis, scholars, all over the world we have Jews. But again, as the rabbi said, that's not the nation. The nation is not just a collection of Jews, even if you have 6 million in New York. The oneness of God is revealed through, again, Goy Echad Ba'aretz. In the land of Israel, they are that receptacle that are created such to receive and express and reveal this oneness of God, this goodness of God, this holiness, this unifying force of all of creation. That's from the Jews in the land of Israel. To be, again, before the Ten Commandments, before the individuals or the mitzvot, we're told we're going to be what? What's the ideal? You will be unto me, atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. Be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. The goal is to be a nation, not just holy individuals. Non-Jews can be holy individuals. The rabbis say a non-Jew can reach levels of a certain level of Ruach HaKodesh, of divine inspiration. In the Midrash, the Tana of Eliyahu. So what's unique in the Jewish people is that they're created to be this holy nation, a national holiness. The vehicle for Torah is not individuals. It's first and foremost the collective body, so to speak, of the nation. And through that, by virtue of the fact that you're part of that body, you're a limb, you're an extension, you're a branch of that body, that is upon you, therefore, the obligation of the mitzvot. Actually, about the Sfat Emet, the Ger Rebbe, right, not too while ago, we read Parshat Kedoshim. It says Parshat Kedoshim was, Vayaki, got all the nation together. It was said in the public, so to speak, when all the Jews were gathered. Why? Because it is impossible to merit holiness only by your bitul, your, not assimilation, your connection to the Klal Yisrael, to the nation. In other words, the individual is not connected to God directly. Our connection to God, non-Jews have an individual connection. Each one, like the Maharal elaborates on this in Netzach Yisrael chapter 11, like Noach, individual connection. You're holy, you're good, you get close to Hashem, you're closer to Hashem. If you fall, you can get farther from Hashem. But the nation of Israel, he explains, from Avraham Avinu, is a new era, a new essence of the collective holiness. Avram, the father of what comes out to be later the nation of Israel. And the nation is an objective holiness. There's an objective connectivity of God to that nation. He created this nation to say his name in the world. Where does it say that? In Yeshayahu 43:21. You hear that often. It's a very central understanding. Am zu yetzarti li tilati seperu. Yeshayahu 43:21. This nation have I created unto me to say my name in the world. I've created a certain, it's not a man-made, we chose to get closer to God. We like God, we want to be, we believe. And then, like I said, by Noach, that's true. Non-Jews, B'nai Noach, that if they decide and just agree to get closer, to perfect their lives, to more moral, ethical, they get closer to Hashem indeed, and they get this blessing and flow. But it's subjective totally. In other words, if they change their mind, or the next generation, it's not an absolute thing that cannot be changed. It depends on man. You get close, you're close. If not, you're far. By Am Yisrael, he explains, the Maharal, again, this important chapter in Netzach Yisrael, chapter 11, that the connection of God to the Jewish people is not our choosing. Like it says in Pirkei Avot, that a love that depends on something, if the something goes away, then the love goes away. It's dependent on some external or some other factor. By the Jewish people, there's no external factor. It's the connection of God to the Jewish people that He created. This is my vehicle. This is how the structure of reality is such that my name, this ideal, this flow of life, of blessing comes to the world through this entity called the nation of Israel, this neshama, the Shekhinah, the Knesset Israel. The individual, each one of us, the uniqueness of the Jewish people is by virtue of the fact that we're part of this national entity. We're branches of that, and we have free will. Individuals have free will to express that inner holiness or not. But the holiness, it says, cannot be changed. We didn't make it, we can't break it. Of the Jewish people, not individuals. Individuals can be, unfortunately, not holy, Jews, etc. And a non-Jew can be very holy and religious and spiritual. But the nation of Israel is this entity that there's no, he says, even the sin cannot get rid of this connection. This is this godly, what I call, again, objective holiness planted in this world through this spiritual life force, which is revealed through each one of us. And each one of us, again, is now obligated to do the mitzvot by virtue of the fact that we're part of that nation. And here the Ger Rebbe writes in Sfat Emet in Parshat Kedoshim how it's impossible to get to holiness individually. What do you mean? I'm holy, I'm good, I'm doing the mitzvot. It's a private relationship, me and God. No, by the Jewish people, it's not that way. It's built that way that you're like a branch of a tree. It can't go the branch directly to the source. It goes through the trunk and the branches, etc., get to the fruit. The connection of the Jewish people to holiness, to Hashem, in other words, is through their connection to the nation. What he says here, only by cancellation or like nullifying yourself or connecting yourself to the tree of life, to the nation of Israel. In another place he writes, also in Parshat Kedoshim, why is that? To love your neighbor as yourself. Why is that so important? To be connected to other Jews, to love other Jews. Why is that so important? He says I'll read it in Hebrew first. Ki ikar kiyum Torah mitzvot beklal Yisrael. The main fulfillment of the Torah and the commandments is through the nation of Israel. And al yedei klal, and through the klal, via the klal that you're connected to, you're a branch of, your zochim el kedusha. Then you merit holiness. In other words, the more you're linked to the nation, the more you care about the nation, the more you not empathize, but understand that you're connected, that you're a branch of this giant symphony orchestra, you're an instrument in a bigger unit, then you get to holiness. That's why he says, we say before the mitzvot, there are those that say it's written in some of the sidurim, before every commandment, before you put on tefillin and then tzitzit, and even Shfirat HaOmer, the Shem Yuchel Kudshe Brichu, right, to unify the divine and the Shekhinah, again, to the divine flow into the receptacle, the Shekhinah, which is Knesset Israel, in the name of all of Israel, B'Shem Kol Yisrael. I'm doing the mitzvah in the name of all of Israel, as part of this branch that I'm a part of this bigger unit. Why? I'm doing it me, Moshe Kaplan and God. We have this connection. We have a private thing. The heck with the rest of the Jews. What's good for them? I'm not concerned with that. What's happening with them? There's a war. There's battle. There's soldiers. I'm religious. I'm a good Jew. He says no such thing. The mitzvot that you do are b'shem kol Yisrael, to connect yourself to even nullify yourself to the klal. And on the nation of Israel is the name of God. On the collective nation. That's the vehicle. In other words, it doesn't come through the individual. That's why it says, in Pirkei Avot, there it says, Al tifrosh min hatzibur. Don't cut yourself off from the nation. But the Rambam brings down that Aporesh min hatzibur, the rabbi in the Gemara, that's just some hidden, that Aporesh min hatzibur ein lo chelek l'olam haba. He that cuts himself off from the nation has no portion in the world to come. The world to come is, again, that connection to the eternity, to the divine, to the eternal good. What do you mean? The Rambam says that even though he's not doing any sins, you can imagine for this picture, the person at 120 gets up to heavenly court and he says, you can't come in, you don't get into the Olam Haba. Why? What did I do? Nothing wrong. No, look at all the mitzvot I did and no sins. But he said the fact that he wasn't happy with their days of happiness of the nation, and when sad, when they're, like I said, in war and battle, they didn't affect him. Disconnected from the nation. So what? I'm not a nationalist. I'm not a Zionist. What do you mean? But I'm a good Jew. There's no such thing. Because your connection to Hashem, to the eternal, to the divine, is not an individual connection. Our connection is a collective connection. B'shem adu the mitzvot, b'shem in the name of all of Israel. You cannot get holiness except through the nullification, so to speak. You're embracing it, you're filling yourself connected to the klal. Cutting yourself off from the klal is cutting the branch off from the roots, the trunk that gives it life. And that, unfortunately, we forget. Or we forgot, because 2,000 years we've been living as individuals. The Gemara says in Brachot, page 8a, since the temple was destroyed, the Jews in exile, God only has his 4 cubits of halacha. What are 4 cubits? You've heard that term, 4 cubits, 2 meters, something. That's the private domain, like you're allowed to walk on Shabbat, 4 cubits without a roof, whatever you can carry. Not walk, you can walk, but you can carry outside. The 4 cubits is considered the domain of the individual, where he stretches. That's his private domain. In other words, outside of, when the Jews are in the exile, God only has his 4 cubits of halacha, the minimum, the individual domain. Judaism is now relegated to the individual, to the private, to the kitchen, Shabbat, kashrut, the Beit Midrash, learning places, of houses of study. But there's no nation, there's no collectivity, the nation of Israel that receives God's name, to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Like I said, non-Jews can also be holy people, individuals. But a nation that is holy, that is what will revolutionize mankind. You could say, understand this, that the nation is the minimum unit that encompasses all of life. Individual is a holy doctor, he does this, he does that, he's a farmer. Holiness in all that he does. He's good and honest in all that he does in life. But he can't do everything. He can't encompass all of life. The minimum unit that is in all of life, that politics, national, international relations, government, industry, commerce, science, medicine, all of that is holy. All of that is driven by a holy life source. This neshama, the shekhinah, the divine presence that is revealed through a living nation in all of life. That's the novelty of the Jewish people. That's the creation that, like I said to Yeshayahu, that I've created this nation to say my name in the world, to say my praise in the world, in all of the world, not part of the world, not aspects. Other religions, so to speak, there's separation of church and state. You can't sanctify government, you can't sanctify statehood, you can't sanctify society. You have to, individuals, if you can, what's the best thing? Vows of celibacy and where to live. In some monastery, right? If you can, the ideal, if you can just separate from life, less physical. The physical is sinful, and definitely the collective society. You have to avoid. That was the first Christians that were Jews. They wanted more holiness that can be found in society. So society is not corrupted, but you have to deal with all these different issues, physical and temptations. Stay away. They went to the caves in Yam HaMelech down south to be separate, to be holy, as if holiness is to be separate from life, to avoid life. And the Jewish ideal, the Torah ideal, the divine ideal, the source of all, that God created heaven and earth, soul and body. Not to leave the body, not to leave earth. Not that the physical is doomed, is the original sin that can't be fixed. God forbid. But God is the creator of all. And the expression of that, the sanctity of all, the uplifting of all, the elevation of all, the connection of all of life to Hashem, to this goodness, to be holiness, to be justice, and in all, that's this nation. A nation. No, an individual can't be everything, can't be, even if he's holy, he can't be in everything. So this minimum unit that expresses this holiness of godliness in all of life, that is what God said before the Ten Commandments. You will be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. That we say the blessing on the Torah. What is it? Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. Not individuals. Like I said, individuals can be holier than you, more spiritual, more, unfortunately. I mean, the Jews can be rotten and corrupt and evil, God forbid. But they're not living their full existence. In other words, the national holiness is supposed to come down and be revealed through every fingernail, every individual branch of every individual person. But we have free will. But we can use our free will improperly, that we go against our inner nature. But by us, the inner nature is that holiness. The Maharal in Tiferet Yisrael, which maybe you should learn before Shavuot, if you get a chance. Tiferet Yisrael talks about the significance of Torah. In chapters 17 and 21, the Maral says, why wasn't the Torah given to the fathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, holy people, righteous individuals? And he says, just because of that, they were individuals. They were the foundation of the nation, but they weren't yet the nation. The vehicle for Torah, the address of the Torah, that which receives and expresses the Torah. What do you mean? Not just the book. The book everyone can read, and you can do it in English, and the non-Jews, everyone can read it. But the Torah, this neshama, this divine ideal, which is written and revealed in the Torah, in the mitzvot. But the source of all that, the Torah, was given to the Jewish people. When they became 600,000 people at Sinai, now you have that collective receptacle, they're not going to receive the Torah. Up till then, you couldn't receive the Torah. Holy as you may be, holy as they were, the fathers. But there wasn't the nation. The address of the Torah, in other words, this collective vehicle that receives the Torah, receives God's names, and lives it, not just receives it to do the action. And anyone, like I said, a monkey, God forbid, you can train it to put on tefillin. We're talking about how the receiving that it's their life. What does it say? Asher natan lanu, nata betochenu. The netiyah, it's implanted in us. That's our soul. It's not something sort of the behavioralist, we can do these actions. That's our soul, our life source. A priori, before we're born, before we understand, before we believe or do. That's our inner essence. That's our spiritual inner DNA, if you wish. That's implanted in the Jewish people. Not by an act of our choosing. That's what the Maral explains in Netzach Yisrael. That can't be changed. It doesn't start with you. If you're a human being, you're born. But I don't want to be a human being. I dafka like these. I have a dog. I like to be with him. I like to play with the dog. I want to be a dog. That doesn't change your reality. There's an objective reality. You're created such, you're a human being. The ideal is that you also live up to it and express it and be a morality of now, even that's being questioned in progressive post-modernity. That who says you can be whatever you... But there's an objective reality. So too the Jewish people have implanted this godliness is not the acceptance of the Torah. It's this inner essential content of holiness, of goodness, of godliness, of justice, of absolute truth, of eternal essence. And that cannot be changed by your free will against or agreeing or disagreeing. Like I said, a priori, it's before you're born. That's the neshama. That's this collective life force, which we are now comes down to individuals through each one of us. And there we have free will to live up to that inner essence, to open that ourselves, so to speak, to express that inner light that's inside of us, or not to. But the light is there. And it's a big difference if you understand that. If you think it all depends on your actions, and a Jew doesn't do the mitzvot, he's not Jewish. He's no longer, there's no hope for him. There's no need to even try to explain it because he's not Jewish. He's not doing the mitzvot. It doesn't start with the mitzvot. It's revealed through the mitzvot. In other words, the holiness of the Jewish people doesn't start with our doing the commandments. It ends in that. In other words, it's the holiness that it's inherently there that requires the mitzvot to express it, to reveal it, to open up. These are the valves that enable you to open up 613 channels of how to reveal and express that super light into this three-dimensional world that we live in. That's the mitzvot. It's not some external action that you do these rituals and you're part of the club. This is an essential essence. Asher bacharbanu mikol amim. The Maral, also the Or Sameach on the Torah, the Meshech Chochmah, says that Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu miyached shmo ala prati. God does not reveal on the Yechid. God does not reveal Himself. You could say does not link up to through the individual, but rather the collective. Because the individual is finite. How can the infinite, so to speak, connect to or be revealed through something that is finite? But rather what you said, Echad, you are one, your name is one, this ideal, this infinite ideal is revealed through the nation that is one. There's a nation that's collective entity that is one, that is parallel, the feminine side, so to speak, the male that comes to the female side, so to speak, the Shekhinah, that's the nation, that's Shema of Am Yisrael. Our collective life source, which is not dependent on us. That's before us, that's eternal, and that's eternal. That's why the Jewish people, it says, Netzach Yisrael lo yishaker, the eternity of the Jewish people. Right? The famous Mark Twain quote, everything is mortal but the Jews. Right? Everything passes, there's nations, you probably read, that famous quote of Mark Twain, I won't read it now, I don't have that much time. But he shows how all of history, there's nations that rise and fall, like all the historians talk about it. But there's one nation that doesn't fall, it has exile, but it keeps going. How does it continue? Mark Twain ends the question. What is the secret of their immortality? But that's the secret, if you want to know the answer. What's the secret of our immortality? That it's not some man-made club that manages to overcome the outside influences. It's this divine source of before creation, the life force, the ideal that God had before creation, that implanted in this force in this world, which is called the spiritual life force, the Shekhinah, Knesset Israel, of the nation of Israel. And that, the Jews can be killed, Jews die, Jews come and go, but the national life force, this collective neshama, that's what's eternal. And that's what goes through. The Jews are here or there, exile, God forbid, Holocaust, pogroms, what we've been through, amazingly. But the neshama continues. It just keeps, even if you cut off, so to speak, the branches on the surface, the roots are still there. They pop up later again. They come back because that's this eternity. The Maral calls it an upside-down tree. Like I think of the tree, the roots underneath and the branches. He said, Am Yisrael is this upside-down tree, so to speak. The roots are above, and that's what's eternal. And that's why we continue throughout the history and amazingly defy all the laws of nature. Other philosophers, and Vico, Johann Baptista Vico, the father of Historia Sophia, whatever, the philosophy of history, how this nation defies all the laws, all the rules. It's something beyond others that write about how it's our history is meta history. Because again, what's the secret of all that? Again, it's what's behind the scenes. That's why I said at the beginning, what we're trying to learn here, develop this vision that sees beyond the moment, beyond the external facade, the do's and don'ts, the understanding Torah on this bigger level, what the divine, this goal that is revealed through present historical phenomenon, historical development. To see, again, getting back to what we began, the nation of Israel coming back to the land of Israel. But it's a secular state, and it's not the way it's supposed to be, not the way we thought it was supposed to be. So what we said at the beginning, right? So if you understand that it comes in stages, this developmental process of this divine beacon of light that comes now through this one exile, the second exile. They come back the third time, they said there's no going back. Now it's the final return of this beacon of light that will now give forth its light to the Jewish people will come back to the land, come back to themselves, to be first, these stages are, we saw in Yechezkel 36 and 37, those that were here like a month ago. The first stage is coming back to being a nation again, in gathering of the exiles, building the land shooting forth its branches of physical, right, the fruits again. The rabbis say that's the sign of redemption. You have no greater sign of redemption than this, right, in the Sanhedrin Tzaddik 98, but you have no greater sign of redemption than this, when the land starts giving its fruits again. That's all coming from this inner source from beyond. It says, I will put my spirit of life in you and you shall come back to life. There's an awakening, a national awakening, to be again, to be a nation, to be in the land. Where's that coming from? On the surface, what do you mean? The Jews are anti-Semitism, forced them, they're running away from this, or Herzl. But if you understand the history from the inner dimension, not just from the moment, the newspaper level, this neshama now is demanding its expression. The divine ideal of all this creation is now coming down and demanding its full expression, and it comes back in stages. It comes back in 1948, Tashach, we'll talk about maybe. We weren't here for Yom HaTzmaut. I mean, in the class, we didn't have to explain all those sources that talk about actually that date, Tashah 1948. How it's a new era of history when the Jewish people are now back in the land. The rabbis say in Brachot, and Rambam brings down, that there's no difference between this world and the world and days of the Mashiach, except for one thing: no miracles and no supernatural phenomena. Not the Beit HaMikdash comes from heaven. Everyone's religious. No, one thing. Shibud Malchuyot, the abolishment of the subordination of the Jews to other nations. In other words, Jewish independence. Jewish independence ushers in a new era, a new dimension of now the neshama is in the world. Where does that come from? It says in Yechezkel, I will put my spirit of life in you, you shall come back to life. There's this new thrush from above, this new infusion from above. This divine ideal is now demanding its expression. So the Jews, this magnet, pulling the Jews back to the land of Israel, back to be this kingdom of priests and holy nation. Again, holy nation? Is that what we have today that looks so statistically? But it doesn't, again, we said it comes in stages. Kima. Stage one, like I said, is the physical redemption. Just like it was from Egypt. We celebrate Pesach, the physical freedom from slavery. The second stage, Shavuot, Matan Torah, receiving the Torah, the Neshama, the spiritual content of that national entity. And so too today, we have 2 holidays, 2 days of commemoration between Pesach and Shavuot, right? The physical, call it redemption, the spiritual redemption. So too we have now in modern day, parallel to them and between them, also of 2 days of commemoration, Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim. Yom Ha'atzmaut, again, they represents the physical rebirth of the nation, national sovereignty returns. But it's not perfect and holy yet. And then you have Yom Yerushalayim is more the spirituality, right? Yerushalayim represents that, like the people said, Harabait Bi'adenu, the Temple Mountain is in our hands. The return to the spiritual. It's not all perfect yet. We still have stages to go. And also now what's going on today, we're very signs of birth pangs, of something big that is pushing and coming out. The eruption of the Shema that you see with the nation, the volunteering, the self-sacrifice of the soldiers and going and running to give and to help others, and all the different levels. And the Shema is surging again, is pushing again, with all the problems and the difficulties that go with it because of that process. There's side pains that go with the birth. But nevertheless, we're living in these times that what we're trying to say is, the ability to receive what's going on beyond the surface. Not judging. If people say, I said the baby is born, I gave that, right, metaphor. The child is born, he's not all perfect and religious and holy. He says at the beginning, I don't believe in neshama. I don't believe in neshama, I have a holy Jewish soul. So he doesn't have a soul? If he says he doesn't have what he doesn't have. If the people take a vote, God forbid, that there's no God. Depends on what we say, what we think, or mistakenly think. The neshama is now coming to the world. God is now bringing back the Jewish people to this final redemption in all these stages, even if the people themselves that are participating are not aware of the source. They say, I don't believe in God. I'm coming back because of this reason or that reason. Anti-Semitism here, or Herzl wakes us up for that, or Zionism, or political, whatever, some emotional, historical reasons. That's all irrelevant. In other words, we're trying to see here what's like Roeta Nolad, who is the wise that sees what's within, what's going on, what's the deeper, there's the conscious level and some people can say the subconscious, I call it the superconscious level, the neshama level. The neshama is now pulling us back and bringing us back to demanding its expression in stages. It comes back, stage 1, stage 2, back to we have the stages that we learned about the beginning of the last few months. The stages of that redemption, like I said quickly, right? The physical redemption, then the spiritual. Look it up in Yechezkel 36 and 37 more explicitly. There, the 2 stages delineated there. The bones come back to the body, they become a nation again, but there's no spirit. It says explicitly, where's the spirituality? Where's the religiosity? Where's this to be a nation? That's all we wanted? No, but that's stage 1. To appreciate stage 1, to appreciate where we're going, what's taking place. And that enables you to help and direct and to bring out the continuation of the process. If you're not aware, if you don't think there's a seed in the ground, you won't water it. You say, what are you wasting your time watering? There's nothing. But if you know that there's a seed there, something very great here, the potential, more than the potential, the seed is already there. You just have to work to expose it, to bring it out. Then you know to work and to do it. This understanding of the inner holiness of the nation of Israel, of the state of Israel, doesn't bring you to inactivity. It's holy, then leave it as it is. No, because we appreciate what is inside, what is there, what is now waiting to come out. You know how to work. You work even harder to bring it out because you know what greatness is now waiting to come out, and you work to bring it out, and you also know how to do it properly. You have proper behavior, direction to know how to focus and help bring that holiness that is there latently and inherently, to bring it to expression, to bring the final Gula. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue next week. You have to go to Mincha now. Or you eat. Throw it. Want to shut it off?